You may have heard it said that when it comes to a life of purity, it's pretty much either going to be heaven all the way to hell or hell all the way to heaven. Is that really the way it's supposed to be? What's the role of joy in living a pure life? Well, today we're going to dive into that with a longtime friend, incredible man, Chris Stefanick. We're also going to be leading a pilgrimage together. We're going to dive in and tell you all about that. But before we jump in, I want to thank one of the sponsors of Lust is Boring, which is Exodus 90. Lent is underway. I hope yours is going well. If you feel like it's slumping a little bit, guys, they've got an awesome resource for you. It's a 40-day journey towards Easter Sunday, reflecting on the Gospel of Mark. And if you want to check out the program, you just go lentformen.com/Jason and give this a try, because Lent is supposed to be a lot more than just like, okay, I'm not eating chocolate and I'm just going to feast on seafood for 40 days and then it's going to be this glorious Easter. A lot of times Easter rolls around, we're like, you know what? I think I could have gone a little better that Lent. And so let's not let Easter come and wish we had a better Lent. How to get the most out of it, check out this program, Reflecting on the Gospel of Mark, walking with Christ through these 40 days in the desert, because you might not be up for the full-on Exodus 90, the cold showers, everything. This is kind of, I think, a great gateway drug, you could say, to the gifts that are awaiting you at Exodus 90. So give this a shot if you're a guy. 40 days reflecting on the Gospel of Mark. Doesn't mean you had to start on day one of Lent. If you're coming into the game late, you're still going to get a ton out of it. And so thank you to Exodus 90 for helping keep this program afloat. And also thank you to our guest today, Chris Stefanick, for coming on board with us. I cannot wait to go with you to World Youth Day this summer.
Woohoo! We are psychotic enough to lead yet another World Youth Day pilgrimage.
Oh, yeah, because it always just goes
50.
Goes without a hitch, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If there's any event that doesn't go without a hitch in history, it's World Youth Day. And I remember getting to the Archdiocese of Denver. I used to work for Archbishop Chaput, and I asked him and the Vicar General, like, World Youth Day 93, what gives? Because they were kind of, the Vicar General was in charge of all this stuff back then. And like, how did you not plan to have enough porta potties?
Yeah.
And he said, we had literally every porta potty in the United States of America on that field. That was it. Like, there's just no way to gracefully plan for 1 million people. Ever. But the mess, the mess of humanity that comes into World Youth Day and converges. It's like a pilgrimage to go and see the universal church. Yeah. Because on the way to that porta potty line, you meet people of, as Revelation says, every nation, race, and land and tongue, all there together with one cause, with a similar spirit that you recognize in the people all around you. It's life-changing, man. Yeah,
you never know who you're going to meet in the first aid tent while being treated for dehydration with an IV. 40 people in line outside. But
oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, no, it's not that bad. If you guys never been to World Youth Day, it's really a lot better than we're kind of kicking it off with. But we're going to be we're flying into Madrid, right, to get things started, and then the World Youth Day is going to be in Madrid, or is going to be in Lisbon, Portugal, and then we're also going to be going to Our Lady of Fatima. So maybe tell some of the listeners who's invited and what it is that we're going to be doing there.
Teenagers are invited, but also this is something special. So there's also youth groups. There's dioceses that are coming. The Diocese of Columbus, I think, is joining us. I'm losing track of who's joining. My own parish with the youth group, but we also have a tract that's for families. So people who want to go with their kid to World Youth Day. I think it's something unique about what we're offering. But yeah, you're going to experience all these places, pilgrimage spots, but just the World Youth Day events are really, they left an indelible mark on me as a teenager. And then growing up and bringing groups. I'm bringing 2 of my own kids this time, which is so awesome. Yeah. And I'm so glad you're coming with us, man. I'm so glad you were kind of a later add-on. Yeah. So me and Jason, folks, are going to be leading the whole pilgrimage.
Yeah, I'm bringing 2 or 3 of our kiddos there, because I remember World Youth Day when
You're bringing your own kids too?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's going to be awesome. And so families are invited. I don't think we're bringing just teens, right? They've got to have an adult chaperone with them. Is that the deal?
Yeah, you got to come as part of a group. So it's either a youth minister plus all their teens, or diocesan group, or families.
Yeah, but young adults, if they want to sign on, college students over 18, they can go solo or with friends with the group, correct? Yeah. Okay.
That's right. And we're going to have a blast, man. We really are.
Yeah, because World Youth Day, I think, originally was intended not simply for like high school kids, but young adults as well. And so when you get there, it's not just like a Steubenville Youth Conference where it's just high school kids. I mean, it's college students, it's young adults, it's families. Go to this. I remember when John Paul II came to World Youth Day in Denver, when his helicopter was landing at Mile High Stadium, the pilot of the helicopter said that he was actually experiencing turbulence from atmospheric disturbance caused by the roar of the teenagers. The voices of the teens screaming, the helicopter pilot said it would actually made the helicopter shake as John Paul II was landing. And so just the experience.
After all his years surviving communism.
Yeah.
He goes down the field at World. Thank God it didn't end that way.
American teenagers screaming at the Pope.
Right.
But it's going to be awesome. Pope Francis is going to be there. We're going to see Our Lady of Fatima, get to be able to spend some time there. There's going to be days of catechesis, visiting pilgrimage sites. So there's plenty of time to come and sign up if you want. I don't know if there's plenty of time, but there is still room at the hotels and the buses that we're going to be bringing. If you go to chastity.com/pilgrimage, you'll find the link right there to go sign up your family, your youth group, yourself, get more information on costs, travel, airfare. Everything is going to be there. We're going to be staying, I think, at some good hotels. I don't think they're going to be sleeping on dirt floors every single night. I think we're going to be taking good care of the family. So chastity.com/pilgrimage, or click the link in the show notes. Join us. You can still sign up. There's time. It's going to be I think the first week of August. I think we leave the last day of July or something like that. It's about a week-long pilgrimage. So now, Chris, what's going on in terms of your ministry, Real Life Catholic? I know you got a new book came out on joy. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What inspired you to write that?
Joy, it was really what called me to the Lord in the first place. Yeah. I was a kid whose priorities were to drink and party and try to be cool and use girls, and I thought that would be the life, man.
Yeah.
Jesus said I came to give them life to the full. I thought he'd come to make me boring. My parents dragged me off to a retreat I didn't want to go on. So I love coerced religious experiences for teenage kids.
Now you do it for a living.
That's it. I'm at those all the time. And the thing that changed my life was the joy in the room. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the great speakers. And I realized how empty I was when I remember this one guy in particular, probably 65 years old, looked nothing like my secular rock gods. He wasn't cool, but he had a joy that just wrecked me. The first Christians called themselves the living ones. And when I saw him, I thought, wow, I'm dead. I want that. I want what that guy has. Yeah. Which, by the way, never underestimate your power as an average, everyday, ordinary, real life Catholic, just doing the thing with joy. Mm-hmm. But that drew me to the Lord and became really a pillar for my spiritual life and how I communicate the faith to people, that even if I don't do it eloquently, mm-hmm. when you do it joyfully, I've found it draws people. Yeah. And then COVID hit. Yeah. COVID for me was a huge challenge. I had a staff that I was trying to keep employed with an event-based ministry. Yeah. I bore a lot of burden that, your employees don't ever know how much you're bearing mm-hmm. emotionally to keep everybody fed. And then with the family, and then I faced a lot of my own wounds in life, frankly, that had been mixed with a life just, in ministry, where I realized over time, wow, I bear this burden of keeping everybody happy. And the Lord doesn't want that as part of my ministry. Mm-hmm. But as I faced all these things and experienced some pain, it was a challenge from God during that time, also mixed with contemplation and not being on the road as much and a lot of prayer, where the Lord was saying, Chris, that charism, that thing that called you to me in the first place, let's get more intentional about what it takes to actually live that out. And then I started writing that book just from a gut level, from my own experience. And it's obviously based in scripture and a lot of research and things, but I came up with 9 rules for living joy. And it's my gosh, I think we're well over 100,000 copies have gone out. It's reached a lot of people and resonated a lot. Because if the world's lacking anything right now, man, it's joy. Mm-hmm. And before we fix anything else in the world, we got to fix that in our hearts to be attractive to the world again. Yeah. And to be ready for anything else the world throws at us. I remember reading a book years ago. When I used to live in San Diego, I'd take it to the beach and I'd go surfing and just chill and read it. It's called Saints Are Not Sad by Frank Sheed. And it's just the life of all these different saints. It's short stories about their lives, and that, the one thread through them all was joy. I remember a priest saying in college, Father Giles Dimmick, he used to talk about grumpy priests. Father Giles. Yeah, Father Giles. So pray for him. I think he's on his last days, by the way. But I remember he used a phrase to talk about grumpy priests.
and he talked about them as the grim bearers of the glad tidings, and just how unconvincing it is, a gospel that isn't full of joy. And so how have you found that's translated into just practicals of family life? I mean, when you're raising teenagers and marriage is difficult and there's drama and kids are slamming doors and not fighting, bickering with each other, and like, how do you actually bring this into the family life? Instead of, I will have joy, like I will smile at you. Like, how do you actually live this out when life can be pretty darn stressful and not so joyful times?
And frankly, brutal. Life can be brutal, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's problems within marriage that get really more painful than you'd ever have imagined.
Yeah.
Problems with finances and business, especially people still trying to climb out of the COVID, the way it just dropped a nuke on their businesses.
Yeah.
And I think first is, Jason, coming to that question, how to, the first thing is to say, I need to. Like, before I fix other things, I have to fix this. Most people attach joy to some outcome. And that's not the Christian approach to joy at all. I'll be happy when, I'll be joyful if, I'll be peaceful after that battle's won. And one of my favorite scripture verses is from Nehemiah. God's people were comfortable in exile, being called to go home and rebuild their fallen city, which in the ancient world was a huge deal. You had no city walls. That means your neighbors throw spears at you and you're going to die. Yeah. So when they heard, leave the comfort of exile and then go and rebuild, what they heard was, kiss your wife and kids goodbye. Some of you might not make it. You're gonna fight. In that context, sending them forth to battle, Nehemiah said, "Oh, and yet the joy of the Lord must be your strength." Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Joy is not what happens on the other side of the battle. Mm-hmm. It's the grit and power you need to enter the battle. So you got a bad medical report, you got problems in your finances, you got problems in your marriage. You work on all that. First, work on your joy.
Yeah.
First, work on not letting the devil make you a weak Christian as you enter those battles. Yeah. Whew. Yeah. So how? Well, I'm not telling. Buy the book for $19.95. It's on Amazon. Gosh, we could go into so much here, Jason. But when I feel the sadness ripping me down and making me a tired Christian, I live these things out. I go to these rules for joy and think, what am I not doing?
Yeah.
And not to say it's just about a system. I mean, joy is a fruit of the Holy Spirit. But like any gift, charism, fruit, gift, grace from God, he's asking us to cooperate with him too, right? I mean, it's just like our bodies. We've been given a physical body. You can't earn that. Mm-hmm. And yet a baby who didn't earn its body has an obligation to suck milk and to breathe and move his lungs. Yeah. And if it doesn't do that, it's going to die. Mm-hmm. And the same is true for Christian joy. It's a result of the presence of God. But the Lord's like, can you help me out a little bit here? Yeah. Make some space for this gift. And the pillar one, I could go into all 9, but I want to lean into this one, especially for family life, is gratitude. That was the first one in the book. I almost wrote the whole book on gratitude. Mm-hmm. Ingratitude will destroy family. Destroy it. Yeah. Ingratitude can kill a healthy marriage, because the human ingratitude will take kids who have imperfect parents. Of course, my kids have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, no, my kids have no comprehension of what that's outside of their realm of experience.
But I want to speak to the heart of the kid out there who has imperfect parents, who's watching and thinks, I wish my parents were Jason and Kristalina, Chris and Natalie.
Yeah.
Right.
Just immune from any imperfections.
Right. I'll tell you, but we've seen it too, where like kids are so miserable and they turn their homes upside down because they're fixated on what's wrong with their parents. It's a destructive force. It's destructive in society at large.
Yeah, and the parents are fixated on what's wrong with the kids. It's like the cyclical.
Yes. Yeah. And this is natural, actually. I mean, it's because the human brain did not evolve to make us happy, but to keep us alive, which specifically means that your brain evolved to fixate on what's wrong. Because if your brain wasn't like that, I mean, the people whose minds didn't go that way, and the cavemen who were chasing butterflies and smelling flowers, they were all eaten by saber-toothed tigers before they reproduced. Yeah. The ones who were a little angry, watching their back all the time, had lots of kids, and we're all here today. and we're always watching our back. We're always fixating on what might hurt us, what's wrong, what's imperfect in my life. We need to rise above that. 1 Thessalonians 5, give thanks in all circumstances. This is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. A spirit of gratitude is like a spiritual weapon, man. Father Ripperger is an exorcist and a friend of mine. He said, there's no grateful thoughts in hell. None. And demons don't just want you to think what they think, but like they think.
Yeah.
They want you to follow their patterns of thinking, to where all you do is fixate on what's wrong. You know, I think of Anne Frank, who said, think of all the beauty still left around you and be happy. And then I think of so many American teenagers who are growing up and thinking, my life stinks.
Yeah.
And Anne Frank, dude, come on.
Yeah.
But this comes down to profound intentionality.
Yeah, it's an act of the will.
Marriage.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, it's not easy to give thanks.
Yeah.
It's not easy, especially when we're aggravated. One of the best and worst moments of my marriage, it was after Natalie was dealing with, you know, she had been traumatized by sexual abuse as a kid. First 10 years of our marriage, it was like something's off. Next 5 years, something's really off because she's dealing with it in counseling. It's like she's open bleeding wounds, and I'm grateful she really dove into the trials. But as she was in the midst of it, man, I was you know, I embodied everything that gave her pain. Mm-hmm. And I didn't sign up for that. You know, I tried my best. I was pure. I was there for her. And in a very low moment, I'm just like, Lord, can't I have a normal marriage? Which, by the way, I've been looking for people who have had one of those.
God said no, because you're in it.
yeah, that's right. There is no normal marriage. Yeah. There's not be like 1 out of 1,000 people who's like, yeah, I have a normal marriage. Yeah. But gratitude, man. I started to just pray in gratitude in that moment, and I realized normal. People with normal will never know what it's like to have your wife walk through hell just to show up. And I was overcome with a gratitude that, frankly, preserved my marriage in that moment. Because I wasn't about to go cheat on my wife, but there was a big part of me that was like, I just want to get in my car and drive far away. Yeah. I'm so tired. Yeah. And in that gratitude, I thought, because she's dealing with her junk and working through it for me, for our marriage, I know a love that people don't know when everything's just dandy. Yeah. This is one of countless examples, right? When people are fixated on what's wrong, everything just crumbles. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember hearing, I don't remember who it was. I think it was some mom talking about how you can look at the dishes and think like, great, look at that. I mean, just a whole pile of filthy dishes. Nobody's bothering to do them. I got to do them. Or it could be like, thank God we have that many mouths to feed in our house. Thank God that we've got fresh water. Thank God that we've got this many children. And then go to the laundry room and it's just vomiting out 3 weeks worth of laundry. And thank God we have this much clothing with which to clothe our kids. Thank goodness that we have warmth. Thank goodness. Like there's two polar opposite ways to look at these things. Like someone can look at that pile of laundry and those little dirty fingerprints smeared all over the windows. Be like, I can't believe I've got to wash those windows for the 500th time. Versus the person says, thank God for those little greasy fingerprints. Thank God that he blessed us with children. Thank God that this place isn't immaculate. Thank God it's a mess. It's a sign that, I remember John Paul II when he was a cardinal, came in, I believe, to Washington, D.C., and whoever picked him up at the airport was a layman, and he had to drive John Paul II when he was a cardinal somewhere. I think it was a Eucharistic Congress that the Holy Father was going to, I believe, in Philadelphia, or some meeting in D.C., and he decided that he wanted to swing by his house in order to kind of surprise his wife and kids and just show up with the cardinal. Now, trying to pull that on your wife, you'd get shot. Like, oh, by the way, you want to give a little advance notice, maybe a month perhaps. So he kind of shows up, and the wife apparently had taken off with the kids to go have a break and take the kids to McDonald's, and the house was just dilapidated. I mean, it was just a mess. There were toys everywhere, and John Paul's a little shocked by how many toys there were. He's like, it was enough for an entire daycare. But, I think the guy wanted to apologize guys, but John Paul saw this as a sign of like a healthy life. Like it should be a little messy, and it's okay that there's, discord and not everything perfectly in order. I mean, it's a sign of family. It's a sign of life. And so when we look at dirty laundry piles, we look at the dishes, fight that with gratitude. And then one other way it comes to mind with me is just the importance of choosing to praise during the darkest times and not waiting until Easter Sunday to begin the praise, in a sense, that you're going through a dark night. There's a weapon of praise that you can use. Yeah, granted, a third of the Psalms are Psalms of lamentation, and they're heavy, and you're crying out to God in that darkness. But 2/3 of them are Psalms of exaltation and praise. And so during the darkest times, make sure that you're pulling out the praise and worship music and just singing it from the depth of your soul, even though Easter Sunday hasn't come for you yet. I think there's so much merit to be found in that, and so much deliverance from the thoughts that the devil wants to trap you in, because you might think that you're going to outthink your problems, and I just have to think more about this, and I need to solve this. And I think the devil gets you trapped in your own head, whether it's regrets about the past, anxieties about the future, and praise, in a sense, breaks you free from that, where you're just like, I'm out of time for a minute. I'm going into heaven, and I'm just going to do what I'm going to be doing for all eternity, because all this stuff is going to get sorted out. And so I'm just going to fast forward to the ending. I'm going to praise him now. And so I think that liberates you from the confines of anxiety that the devil wants to trap you in.
I love that you landed on those practicals. And in my book, I land on just two simple rules, two simple ways to implement that rule to give thanks in all circumstances. And a lot of times when people listen to those practicals, they think, yeah. Let's go to the next point.
Yeah.
No. Stop right there. It really, changing how you think and entering the joy of God comes down to doing things that are so stupidly simple that someone listening to this podcast is going to say, duh, I knew that. To which I'd say, duh, so do that. Yeah. But what's urgent crowds out what's important in life.
Yeah.
Far too often. We need to commit to the things that are important. So there's those two things. One of them is what you just said, that you need to train yourself to give praise when you are in the darkness, specifically when you're aggravated. One of my good friends is a Navy SEAL, has been on 350 combat missions. The guy has trained his triggers. And I asked him, if you heard a gunshot, what would you do? Because it would trigger me to run and hide. He's like, it would trigger me to think, flank the room on the side and attack the guy from the side. I'm like, that's not normal. It's like, I know, but it was what I would literally automatically do. And why? Because he's practiced it 1,000 times. Christians should not be, quote, normal, according to how the world responds to stresses, aggravations, most of which are because we're juggling so many stinking blessings, which, if you have a lot of kids, you know what we're talking about, right? Every time we're aggravated, we can train how we respond, have that song at the ready. People I work with hear me praising God regularly. It's like, Chris must be annoyed today. Actually, no, maybe I was, but I change when I start doing that, instantly change. And it's become habitual for me. And then the second one is the second you wake up in the morning. When you wake up, your brain starts to do its job, which is keep Jason alive, look at the to-dos, check the email. Did something come in at 4 a.m. that has to be answered by 6:05 a.m., which, unless you're the president, no. But you're constantly doing this stuff to yourself, and it makes you miserable. And if the first fruits of the day, the first thing you do before your eyes open, I just start praising. Like, thank you, Lord, for this day. Thank you for the things I have to do, the people I have to put up with, the ways you're going to sanctify me, that you're never going to leave me. Thank you for the feet that are running down the hall to interrupt my short prayer, because they won't be there forever. Just thank you.
Yeah.
When I start the day, it's such a trajectory for my soul that's different for the rest of the day. And I want to be different, man. This world is miserable. Yeah. I want to, and Paul did this in prison. The stuff that he wrote that has the most, quote, positivity, to borrow the secular term, it's from prison. Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians are the most joyful books in the Bible.
Rejoice in the Lord always.
Right. Oh. I'm about to get my head chopped off. Here's some advice for you. Rejoice.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. But you could almost see in that he was working extra hard at this. Kind of like how my book came from one of my most difficult times in life. Why? Because you start to get intentional about what maybe came naturally before when things are the hardest. Yeah. So, yeah, rejoice.
Now, in terms of, let's say, the younger people, don't have kids and all that stuff, teenager battling difficult relationship issues, drama, temptations, chastity, all that stuff. How can joy kind of be used in their circumstance to help them as young people, especially when it comes to avoiding temptation and falling into false consolations?
Well, you're the one who actually told me this quote from St. Thomas Aquinas, that a man cannot live without joy, right? Yeah. When we don't have spiritual joy, we give ourselves to carnal pleasures. We have to have joy. Pascal said that joy is the motive behind every action of every human being, including those who end up hanging themselves. Obviously, they're misguided, but there's something about the human spirit that absolutely cannot do without joy. Yeah. We have to have it because God made us for it. His dream for us, God's why, when he laid the foundations of the universe, the end of the Bible tells us a wedding banquet, a place where everyone has a stupidly large smile forever because they're rejoicing in love. This is so because God made us for this, he made us to want it, irresistibly so. And when we don't go about what we need in the right way, we get it in the wrong way. And it ends up being a counterfeit. Like your stomach's made for real food. You could fill it with Doritos all day. Yeah. It's gonna make you heavy and unhealthy and ruin your life. It'll keep you alive for a while. It tastes great while it's going down. But that's sin, and the relation of sin and spiritual joy. You got to have the real thing. Man, this applies to so many areas of life too. Like I talk in the book about self-care, and I talk about silence. The mind needs some sort of distraction to rest because we perceive in that it'll lead us to this place of joy. So what do people do now? Well, the second you have a free moment, the lowest hanging fruit, which burns the least brain calories, but it's the easiest to pick up. So I have my self-care time. I start scrolling on my phone. And then I wonder why I'm miserable. Well, it's because you didn't have actual self-care.
Yeah.
You went for what was easy. What's easy isn't joy. It's not a source of joy. It's a source of momentary distraction. Yeah. So the way that the biblical way of living and seeing joy, the way that God calls us to joy, it's hard. John Paul II said that real path to joy, and I quote this in my book, is like it's climbing up a steep hill. It's like the path of the Beatitudes, right? Yeah. Please don't be like everybody else, right? People who are listening, just the world is so stinking miserable doing what it does. Let's be different, but that takes a commitment to a deeper kind of life and a pursuit of a real joy. No,
it reminds me of the words of Christ. Come to me, all you who are weary and find life burdensome, and I will give you rest. It's like a command to come to me. Like there's so many other endless distractions you could run to for just a momentary lapse of the suffering of just to kind of medicate it for a few minutes. But then when that thing's gone, it's on to the next one. Then just this endless series of distractions outside of Christ. And that's why he kind of calls us out of that. Come to me, and I'm going to be the only thing that's going to give you rest. So if people want to learn about the book, how to get the book, how to share it with copies with their parish, their family, whatever, how can people get it?
Easy to get the book on Amazon. You can also get, if you want to buy it in bulk for your parish, you can just look up Living Joy Bulk. I think it'll take you right to the Augustine Institute's page where they sell it for parish giveaways. You can get a program I created on Living Joy on reallifecatholic.com. There's a code if you want to bypass the paywall for that, which I think you probably do. I'll give it away right now. If you just text the word joy to the phone number 44144.
Okay.
It'll get you an automagic link, joy to 44144. You bypass the paywall and you just use a link to click on. You can sign up for this program. We got 21 videos that follow the book, and there's 11 small groups to go with it. So you could do this with your friends. It's just what a great practice for Lent to grow in joy together.
Okay, so if you're driving to listen to this, you don't have time to write that stuff down. We'll put it in the show notes, the links all down there to get the book, to connect with Chris at reallifecatholic.com. Also to come with us on pilgrimage this summer to World Youth Day to Pope Francis for the first week of August. And then just before we close, I want to do just a shout out. Thank you for the patrons who help support Lust is Boring, help support our family. If you want to join our Patreon community, just go to patreon.com/Jason Evert. And it's just such a gift to us, to our family, to help keep us grow this podcast, bring on great guests like Chris, spread the message of authentic joy. So, Chris, it is always a joy to have you on the show. God bless you. God bless your family. And see you at World Youth Day.
Woohoo! Good to be with you, brother.
God bless.